Hello, good day, Sir Art. I'm here in front of you to present my position paper about the issue on youth, technology, and the preservation of biodiversity. Alteration in any system could bring varied effects. A change in biodiversity could have erratic effects not only in wildlife or marine life, but also in human beings. We can clearly infer that when our ecosystem is not well taken care of, our biodiversity encounters changes that may impact human health on such different levels. Even with the improvement of technology and science at present, we still have a lot to learn about biodiversity. More so about the consequences of biodiversity loss. As stated by Tillman, the Earth will retain its most striking feature, its biodiversity, only if humans have the prescience to do so. This will occur, it seems, only if we realize the extent to which we use biodiversity in Rainforest Conservation Fund 2017. Technology can have a large impact on users' mental and physical health. Being overly connected can cause psychological issues such as distraction, narcissism, expectation of instant gratification, and even depression. The technology focuses on its effects that may have on organisms, their habitats, the life-supporting capacity of natural ecosystems, and on biodiversity. Of particular concern is the loss of endangered and rare plant and animal species and destruction of endangered and limited habitats. Extinction is part of the natural evolutionary process. Various species of plants and animals eventually die out, succumb to extinction over time. However, loss of biodiversity in the modern world has become significantly influenced by factors such as habitat destruction, exploitation, and climate change, all of which have become heavily human influenced. In nearly 80% of sewage in developing countries is discharged untreated and pollutes rivers, lakes, and coastal areas. In developing countries, 70% of industrial waste is dumped untreated into waters where it pollutes the potable water supply. Every day, 2 million tons of human waste is disposed in water bodies. The global sea level rose about 6.7 inches in the last century. The rate in the last decade, however, was nearly double that. Between 2030 to 2050, climate change is expected to cause approximately 250,000 additional deaths a year, mainly because of malnutrition, malaria, diarrhea, and heat stress. Traits to biodiversity differ from one ecosystem to another. In the forest ecosystem, the primary causes of forest loss are commercial exploitation and population growth, including lifestyle and consumption patterns, and the introduction of invasive alien species. Loss of biodiversity in the agricultural ecosystem is a direct consequence of habitat destruction via conversion of agricultural land to other uses. The possible impacts of biotechnology, natural calamities, or extreme weather events associated with climate change. Introduction of invasive alien species, pests, and diseases, and inherent institutional problems or government agencies responsible for conserving agrobiodiversity. Major threats to inland water biodiversity, as well as marine and coastal environments, include chemical pollution and eutrophication, fisheries operations, habitat alteration, invasion of alien species, and global climate change. The Philippines started formulating its National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan in 1994 with the formulation of the Philippine Strategy for the Conservation of Biological Diversity, or the PSCBD. In 1995, the Philippines undertook an assessment of the country's biodiversity through the UNEP Assisted Biodiversity Country Study. As a result, the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, or NBSAP, was developed and published in 1997. 5 years later, in 2002, a review of NBSAP was undertaken that identified 206 conservation priority areas and species conservation priorities, collectively known as the Philippine Biodiversity Conservation Priorities, or PBCP, which is considered the second NBSAP revision and incorporates 6 major strategies and immediate actions. Finally, the PBCP was reinforced in 2006 with 228 K biodiversity areas, or KBAS, identified, covering an estimated 10.56 million hectares. The updating of the NBSAP is ongoing. The process builds on the current status and achievements of the Philippines with respect to biodiversity planning and reporting. It aims to integrate the Philippines' obligations under the CBD into its national development and sectional planning frameworks through a renewed and participative biodiversity planning and strategizing process. It is expected to produce measurable targets for biodiversity conservation and sustainable use. Interim biodiversity targets were also incorporated into the Philippine Development Plan in 2011 or 2016. There are different laws and orders in the Philippines, yet the law never forget preserving the wellness and the betterment of the Philippines' nature. These laws were made by various people and many of them are implemented, yet others are not that implemented. Examples. Examples of these laws are Executive Order Number 247 or 247, prescribing guidelines and establishing a regulatory framework for the prospecting of biological and genetic resources, their byproducts and derivatives for scientific and commercial purposes and other purposes, and the laws and orders that benefit the preservation of the Philippine biodiversity, or Republic Act of 7308, an act to promote and develop the seed industry of the Philippines and create a national seed industry council and for other purposes. Act number 2590, an act for the protection of game and fish, Republic Act 7586, or National Integrated Protected Area System Act of 1992, or Republic Act 7611, Strategic Environmental Plan for Palawan Act, or Republic Act 7942, or Philippine Mining Code. Republic Act 8371, recognizing the rights of indigenous cultural communities or indigenous people. Republic Act 9147, Wildlife Protection Act. For Republic Act 8485, promote animal welfare in the Philippines. PD 1586, Environmental Impact Statement System Law. EO 192, reorganization of the DNR, and Proclamation number 926, establishing Subic Watershed Forest Reserve. That's all. Thank you.